today we have Ms. Jasmine Mitchell, who serves as the Miss HBCU Teen Pageant Chair of Mentorship, and she is going to go ahead and take the floor.
Thank you, Essence. Good evening, Queens. This is our Sister Mentor Night. I am so excited for all of you to get an opportunity to hear from these mentors, these incredible women, these HBCU alumna. We will have a group discussion with the mentors where we will go through some questions and kind of have a lighter conversation just about our general HBCU experiences, pageant experiences, life experiences that we think are really going to be helpful for you all. And then we will break out into smaller groups where you will have an opportunity to speak to a mentor and ask any of the questions on your heart. Then we will come back together, and then I'll have 5 of you all contestants. Please tell us some of the advice that you got, some of the gems of knowledge you got from your breakout room. That way we can all hear them and share them together. And then we will wrap it up. All righty. So first and foremost, we are going to start by introducing all of the mentors. We're going to first start off with Miss Taylor MUNSON.
I knew you were going to kick it to me first. Hi, everyone. My name is Taylor MUNSON. I am originally from Orlando, Florida, but I currently reside in Atlanta, Georgia, and it is because I went to the illustrious Spelman College, and Atlanta has just kept a hold of me ever since. Really, really love it here. Job. I am currently the product owner for Racetrack LLC. For those of you that don't have racetracks in your state, it is a convenience store. So I am a product owner for our mobile app. I bring in new features to the app. I talk a lot with our technical teams about what's most important for our guests. And we just kind of talk about basically the bridge between marketing and technology and how we can best serve our guests in the mobile application that we have. And I had the honor and the privilege of serving as 2015-2016 first attendant to Miss Spelman College. One of the most beautiful times in my life. And we can talk about that more later. But I'm gonna pass the mic.
Thank you, Taylor. Yes, that is my queen. And with that, I will pass it over to Miss Kaylin Tate.
Sure. Hi, good evening or afternoon, wherever it is for you. My name is Caitlin. I served as the Miss Morehouse College for the 2017 to 2018 school year. And the Miss Morehouse, or Miss Maroon and White, as we called on campus before me, was actually Jasmine Mitchell. So a small world there. And yes, it was definitely one of the best experiences ever. I also graduated from Spelman College in class of 2018. I work at the National Football League, the NFL office in New York in brand partnerships.
Thank you so much. Next, I would like to pass it to Miss Destiny.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jasmine LAGRONE. I am a 2018 graduate of Hampton University. Originally, I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. I still see Miss Missouri on here, so hey, girl, hey. But currently, I live in New York City right now, or recently. I just started at L'Oreal leading the digital intelligence team. And previously, I was at the National Football League with Kaylin. So I'm really excited to chat with you all today. I do not have a ton of pageant experience, but I do have a few Little Miss Missouri, Little Miss Teen Missouri pageants. And then I also served as Miss National Association of Black Journalists.
Jessica, don't you downplay that pageant experience, honey. Those are crowns, okay? Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to pass it to Mrs. Kennedy Coker.
Oh, Mrs. My name is Kennedy Coker. I attended Spelman College with all my Spelman sisters. I graduated in 2018, and I'm originally from Durham, North Carolina. And I currently reside in Houston, Texas, H-Town. And I currently, my pageant experience, I didn't have much pageant experience before I got to the AUC. However, I did compete for Miss Maroon and White with CARLINE. She is my pageant sister. And then I currently am an English teacher, so high school.
Yes, education. And I'm gonna pass it over to Miss Rashida.
Hi everyone, I'm RASHIDA Williamson. I am originally from Irmo, South Carolina. I currently reside in Atlanta, Georgia, where I attended the illustrious Clark Atlanta University. I know Spelman likes these illustrious, I'm gonna throw a little shade every time. But I still love my girls across the street. We were all queens at the same time. But yes, I attended Clark Atlanta University, where I was actually a sophomore. That was 2015, 2016, and then Miss Clark Atlanta University, 2017, 2018, and I served as, Miss Black Metro Atlanta USA for 2018, and now currently I am the 2023 Miss Black Georgia International Ambassador. And then currently, thank you. Currently, I am in my doctoral program at the University of Dayton, and then when I have my 9 to 5, I am a community engagement manager for the Atlanta Online. So it's nice to meet you all.
What Rashida basically said is she does it all, everyone.
Okay.
She does it all.
She said she is the one, not the two, and that's what we love to see. Miss Jayla McKee, could you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, everyone. So nice to see all of your beautiful brown faces. Jasmine, thank you so much for taking the time and thinking about little old me. Hi, girls. My name is Jalen, and I am a publicist, and I am an entrepreneur based out of New York and Atlanta. I was Miss Savannah State 2016, 2017, where I graduated from Savannah State with my Bachelor's of Arts in Mass Communications with a concentration in Public Relations and Advertising and a minor in Business Marketing. So I had the opportunity to, be here, give back, give y'all the real and the raw, and I'm here for you all. If you guys have any questions, comments, I'm pretty sure we're gonna get into it, but we're gonna have a good time.
And with that, I'll kind of wrap it up. So again, my name is Jasmine Mitchell. I am the chair of mentorship for the Miss HBCU Teen Pageant. I grew up in Chicago, originally from Atlanta, and now I currently reside in Harlem, New York. I did graduate from the #1 HBCU, Spelman College. Okay. I have a BA in political science and pre-law concentration. During my time on campus, I served as Miss Kappa Alpha Psi, Miss Morehouse College, as well as the first run-up to Miss NBCA Hall of Fame. And lastly, I currently work in digital marketing and advertising at the Walt Disney Company. So I help our different clients to create the digital campaigns that you see across all of our Disney subsidiaries. So it has been a journey. So thank you so much to all the mentors for joining us tonight. So first and foremost, the reason why we're here, right? Mentorship. Mentorship is exceptionally important, not only just for your collegiate career, but also post-graduation. Mentors are people that not only can provide you with connections within, whatever career path you decide to go forward, or if you decide to continue your education, but they're also people who can truly pour into you in your personal life as well. I know I can speak volumes to how many times mentors have showed up for me to really keep pushing me forward, really guide me, and especially because I attended an HBCU, and that of one that is, all women's college, but still there's a sisterhood that comes from going to an HBCU amongst Black women and women of color across the board that just cannot be replicated anywhere else. And so because of that, so much of that is ingrained into you and you take it out into the workforce. So the first question I kind of want to get us going with is, how has mentorship truly shaped, your life outside of your collegiate experience? Where have you seen your mentors show up for you? How did it impact your HBCU experience as well?
So mentorship has impacted my life in a huge, tremendous, impactful way. Honestly, every step of my life, I think of the mentors that I've had, and they've always been Black women that have stepped up like, come on, baby, like, I see something in you, let me walk you through this. And I could definitely say when it came to college, especially at a HBCU, because I was explaining this to my little cousin, she at Howard, And she just like, everybody is good. And I'm like, yes, everybody is good. Everybody is smart. Everybody's achieving. Everybody got goals. So what you about to do? And everybody already been working 5 times as hard their entire life. And so to identify, you know, or a Black woman that identified me on campus and saw so much in me and really helped me align my life. Like, I'm a first generation student. So coming into Hampton, they're on a 4.1 scale. I'm on scholarship. I don't know what to do. A lot of this stuff I didn't learn. So honestly, the ability to learn from a Black woman that it's actually okay to ask for help, that this is how you get your ducks in a row and how you organize, and this is what you need to do to build your skill set so that you're able to compete. And then also to have that confidence in yourself. So when you walk in any room, you know who you are, you can speak to your abilities, and you can always outshine the next person. And so honestly, learning that from Dr. Ward and Dr. Hall and all these Black women with PhDs, it's like, wow. Mentorship has really impacted me in so many ways. And so now in my adulthood, in my womanhood in New York, I found that in the corporate workplace, when we are navigating these spaces that traditionally weren't for us. And so it's a whole nother beast, because, you know, you got your people, but you still got to play this game in order to make it and get the money that you want and get the notoriety and, you know, to get the growth that you overall have. And so I really appreciate the sisterhood and the Black womanhood and how it intertwines within corporate. And then now I'm extending that to younger girls through opportunities like this, through programs, through I Mentor. And so I just love the ability that Black womanhood and mentorship has extended overall.
Yes, thank you so much for that. And I think one thing that you really said that you don't start thinking about until you're already in, you know, you're in college and you're surrounded by all this love. But when you get out of college, it's that love and that mentorship and that confidence that you're able to carry with you in those spaces. And I'd actually like to get into that a little bit, because when we're going through HBCU pageants, right, they're very different from, you know, the pageants that are televised, the pageants that we see on a national scale. They require a lot of you in your confidence level, but it's a bit more focused on your ability to not only present yourself, but to articulate yourself and have exceptional public speaking skills and have the ability to, as a Black woman, show up in a space and own that space, right? So I really want to kick this question over to Kennedy, actually. How did your pageant experience or your time, during school really help you with your confidence level? Like, were you shy at one point? Did it really help you with, speaking to larger groups of people? You're in education now. How do you think those skills have kind of transferred over for you?
A feeling you were going to come to me on this one. Honestly, Jasmine can say, I was not a pageant girl. I was not poised, baby. It wasn't given pageant ever. It was never given that. But I think that, and I also didn't grow up seeing Black women in pageants. The only thing I was able to see was like white women with money in pageants. And so it never appealed to me. So when I got to the AUC and saw how big of a deal it is, I kind of was like, okay, that's interesting. Still wouldn't do it, not it. But then, honestly, because I feel like I'm such a shy person. So really it was a challenge to even wrap my head around. I think pageants are kind of thought about freshman year and then sophomore year and then your junior year when you can actually do them. It's like, all your friends are like pressing you falling out with certain people because they want to do it at the same time as you and you don't want to go against your friends. So it was a lot. I think as a person, Kaylin, we were at the same time. So just like there were a lot of long nights, and I think it taught me tenacity. And it also taught me that it taught me real life skills that I can apply to my current role. I think about public speaking. I was scared to speak out loud. I'm never at a loss for words, but in front of the right crowd, I am. And I tend to kind of like shrink myself. So at the, pageant day, I couldn't do that. So it was like, you either look crazy or, you do what you need to do. And so I think it was just like this push that I didn't know I needed to, do Miss Bruno White, but also I think back to now, like I have to get in front of 17, 18, 16-year-olds every day. And, while they're trying me like quite a few times in a day, I'm still like learning how to lead professional developments, but amongst peers that are twice my age. So really just having the confidence, like that is really the biggest thing that I gained. Also just your relationship building. You can't, and when you're amongst a group of women that all bring great things to the table, you can't carry that cattiness into the workplace. And you really have to be, you really have to pick and choose your battles too. What I did learn was everything was very political. I think everything in the AUC was very political. My Spelman sisters can attest, but like everything is very political in life, period. So that was something that I saw in the real world. But it was a rewarding experience.
Yes, and as Kaylin mentioned, I was the queen before Kaylin and Kennedy's group to come in. So I did get an opportunity to see them day in and day out. And I can honestly say that that group was so special because not all of them had done pageants before. Like Kennedy had, and I think there was like one other person who hadn't done these larger pageants on larger scales. And they truly, going through the process, it really pushes you to come out of yourself because you committed to being in the pageant. So you're going to come out. And so I think that it really does do a good job in honing in on that, especially at such a young age. And I think that's what's really special about HBCUs. We are, you're 19, you're 20, you're 21 years old, and you're on these large scales, having to speak publicly, having to ideate and understand what's happening in the world and how it's applied. And that's very different. You don't really see that. I think especially when you get out in the workforce, you realize how different of experience that is that you had. And with that, I really kind of want to go into some of that time when you're in it, you can't really see the bigger picture. So your head's down in it. And I want to throw this question to Rashida. What is some advice you would give your younger self when you were going through that pageant experience, looking back now, and whether that be your HBCU pageants or, otherwise, but now that you're able to take a step back and look, backwards and really see the past, what would you tell her?
I would tell younger Rashida, someone's always going to believe in you. And the reason why I say that is because just because you're going into the pageant by yourself, you still have people that are sitting out there in the audience that actually believes in you and wants to see this crown on your head because they know the potential that you have. I could say from being a sophomore, I thought I lost the pageant because the way that our pageants were set up at Clark Atlanta back in the day, you basically had to campaign all week on the promenade the entire time. That means I'm skipping classes. Not saying you're supposed to do that, but I was out there promoting myself, but I also had a team behind me. And I just remember looking at the other girls I was going against. Somebody had like a bouncy house. Another person was getting out through snow cones. And I'm like, I had a limited budget. I don't have any of that. But I had people that were behind me that made sure that they rallied for me. And I wound up winning. And then even going into Miss Clark Atlanta University, I'm gonna tell you, that was the most trials and tribulations for me. I lost my voice after the first day of campaigning. And everybody knows when you're in a pageant, losing your voice, that's crazy. Like, because you have to speak, you have to talk. And if people cannot hear you, if that microphone just automatically cuts off, it's over for you. So with that actually had me to rely on other people. So that's another piece of advice I would say. You can rely on other people to make sure that they have your back. So my team was able to speak on behalf of me. I could just literally sit there and just be like, I take pictures with you, but I really can't talk because I have to preserve my voice. And then even to the end, on Thursday of the day of the pageant, my table decided to collapse. And then my petitions got Kool-Aid on it. my glass broke, then I cut myself, so I'm on stage with a Band-Aid, and I was just like, you know what? I gave it to God on Friday, waiting for those tallies to come in. I didn't campaign anymore, but I wound up winning again, because again, you have people that have your back, who believe in you and trust in you to have that crown. And I was able to do that, and I was able to accomplish everything I said I would as Miss Clark Lane University. So I would say just always trusting the people that have your back. It just needs to be one person.
Girl, now that is the word. Kaylin, did you want to add to that?
Yes, definitely. Rashida, I'm so glad you shared that, because I feel like when you're competing, it's so easy to compare. I would say I went through a very similar experience too, you know, and like Kennedy has shared, we were in the same pageant. And so, you know, a lot of the times you try to keep a secret from what you're doing and so that nobody else knows. And again, like budgeting can always be a thing sometimes. I remember I was like in Publix, like, I need this cake, but I can't pay $50 for it. What can we do? And it all ended up working out, but like, it's very easy to compare. And I think that the best thing to do in this process of, you know, going through this pageant process, because I hate saying competing, because we're all pageant sisters, like, you know, y'all are going through this process, you know, together, and you're supposed to learn something, you're supposed to grow, right? And, you know, as you go through it, you have to remember that being yourself is what will really bring you through in the end. Win or lose, you're always winners, but like being yourself is always the most key thing. I remember when I was campaigning, I was so broke. I asked my Morehouse brother to swipe me into the CAF after a Crown Forum, which is where all the freshmen usually are. And so I was like, I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna sit there, and this is it, okay? This is what I can do. And so whatever you can do is really what matters, you know. And when you get in your head about getting the most expensive things and things like that, all it's gonna do is stress you out. I think my dress was $100 from Miss Maroon and White. I think it was. So, you know, just do what you can and be yourself.
Thank you so much for that. I think you both really hit on some really key points. I think that all of us would tell our younger selves. One, go to class. Go to class. Okay? I think there is no woman on this call right now that cannot look back at her younger self and say, go to school. Your mother sent you to school, okay? Don't get so caught up in the campaigning and the fast moving of it all that you forget that your intention at the end of the day is to be a student and then to become a graduate. That is your first and foremost responsibility. Second, the budget. The skills you all are learning now in fundraising, if you do so choose to go on to be in the HBCU pageant, baby, the budget, it has to be there. So utilizing those skills and having those resources to know how to crowdsource and how to crowdfund. And then lastly, believe in yourself. And as Kaylin said, I think that is so important that yes, you know, pageants are a competition, but the competition is within you. It is about how much you put in, how much you're willing to, you know, take it to the next step, how much you're willing to push yourself. It's not really about the sister standing next to you. It's an opportunity to learn from her. So thank y'all so much for sharing that. And I feel like that really leads into the next question. Once you get to the point where you are the queen, and now you are serving either a campus, a grade, a hall, a chapter, there are a lot of things that go into it. And I think that because of that, you learn so much, not only just about yourself as a leader, but yourself as a person, truly. And so, Jaylene, I was wondering, could you tell us a little bit, you know, what were one of the most valuable lessons that you learned from being a queen and that you were able to really carry that over with you into your postgraduate life and in your career now?
Oh, that's a great question, Jazz. So there's so many ways that I can unpack that question, but ultimately I would say the campaign season itself was a lot. I didn't even realize it at the time, but with who I am now, it was preparing me back then. I'm a publicist, and so ideally, all we do is run campaigns. All we do every day is speak on behalf of other people. All we do every day is control the narrative and making sure that we're putting together a strategic roadmap to achieving a certain goal on behalf of a client. So ideally, I was my first ever client. When I actually became Miss Savannah State, you know, when you guys decide, and I know some of you all, and I'm speaking to my experience, and as I continue to talk, you guys can take certain nuggets and certain gems, but I had a certain platform of the best HBCU experience. And so I was really passionate about wanting to increase the enrollment rate at Savannah State. I really wanted to change the perception of how people felt about our school, because whereas Jasmine and Rashida and Kaylin, you know, they were a part of the AUC, I was kind of on the other total opposite spectrum of how people felt about my HBCU. You know, like my HBCU was the backup school. My HBCU was the school that was your last resort. Hell, it was my last resort. I didn't want to go to Savannah State. I was supposed to go to Spelman. And when my mama told me, you got 3 options: Fort Valley State, Albany State, Savannah State. The only reason why Savannah State got that option was because they had a beach. But the beautiful thing about Savannah State, though, is even though I didn't choose Savannah State chose me. And so when we go back to mentorship, and when we go back to, you know, understanding the people around you and your tribe, and Black women really pouring back into you, that was really the theme of my platform. That was really the theme of my campaign. And that's really just been the theme of my life. And so I always know how to pay it forward. And so even though it was a certain point right before I was able to enroll in classes, I didn't have housing. And so the lady who became my mentor, she was a very powerful woman who was chief of staff to the president. And there was a room available, and she made me promise her that I was going to have the best HBCU experience, and I did. And so when I got housing, she made me, you going to be in my office every week. Make sure you come stop by. You got a job on campus? She made sure I had a job on campus. You know, when you got this going on, make sure you're here. When it was time for me to want to pledge a sorority, she wrote my letter, you know. So it's just like really kind of understanding that my tribe was just as important as my success, and even carrying that into my reign, because that same woman who was my mentor and who invested in my campaign, who really poured into me and got me ready to provide the best HBCU experience, she became my campaign advisor. She advocated for me on campus for some of the programming that I wanted to do on campus. And so really having that person in your corner that's not only a mentor, but that's going to be a sponsor, that's going to be an external stakeholder, that's going to fight on your behalf, that was really important for me. And so carrying that into my life after graduation and even preparing for graduation, you know, it was a point in time where I didn't know if I was going to graduate, going back to what Jasmine said, go to class, okay? Go to class. I really needed to have someone like her in my corner to even, you know, to be able to advocate, because people don't really understand the balance. Like, it's really hard. Like, when you actually withhold the title, it's hard trying to get ready for the Miss HBCU pageant. Then you got to make sure you graduate. And a lot of us are seniors. And so, you know, my mentor, outside of her, I had 2 mentors. I had an older mentor who was more like a mother figure to me. And then I had a Savannah State alum who was maybe like 3 or 4 years post-grad. And, you know, she really kind of took me under her wing as a little sister. So she made sure that she made sure I was prepared for life. She made sure that I was gathered. She made sure that, you know, I had on my Spanx. She was the person that was going to give me the real and the raw. She was going to make sure that, like, the things that people were scared to tell me, she was like, no, like, your hair look crazy. Where's your makeup artist? Do you have a hairstylist? Just making sure that my image was gathered, but also, are you on track for graduation? What's your classes like? What are your grades like? So kind of really having that level of accountability really helped me throughout my reign and helped me keep balance. But more importantly, she stayed on my ass to make sure that I graduated on time, because at one point I was like, look, I could just graduate in December. She was like, no, you're graduating this semester. get your degree and go home, because that's the other thing. You can get so caught up in that HBCU life. You don't know how to let it go. You might want to stay on. You might want to go to graduate school at your university, so that way, you know, you can be the royalty. I thought that was gonna be my life. I was so engulfed in wanting to pour back into the next girl that I wanted to stay at Savannah State and still keep the ball rolling. And she was like, "No, ma'am. You want to be in PR? You go move to New York and you go pursue that dream." Not saying that there is anything wrong with being an on-campus advisor after your reign, but if you know that your passion lies in something else, don't get so caught up in not knowing how to change and evolve and grow if that's something where you know you don't want to be at. So that would be my advice.
Yes, thank you so much, Jalen. And you really hit on one really key point, right? There's so much that happens outwardly. You got your crown on, your sash on, you're ripping and running. And so people see you constantly juggling multiple things, but they can't really see if you're juggling them well or not. It doesn't matter if you're juggling, they're not seeing you fumble behind the scenes. And so I really like to pass this question to Taylor, because though she's a mentor tonight to y'all, she's a big sister to me. And she has taught me a lot about this. So Taylor, could you speak a little bit about, you know, what were some ways that you balanced as a campus leader, but also as a full-time student? And if there were times where you weren't balancing well, what were some things that you really just learned and can offer up some wisdom to how to be better balanced?
Yeah, I knew you were coming to me for this question. I started originally being very balanced because that's how I got to the crown at first. And I think to your point, Jalen, like nobody quite understands everything that is going on at once. So I was balanced up until a point. For those of you that know me on the call, I'm a very candid, transparent person. But there was a point where I had no more balance, and Black women are really good at pretending. Like we're really good at holding the weight and making sure that no one sees that we're cracking. And that is great for some things, because sometimes you got to go in and, you know, you got to put on a shield to be able to get some things done. But there are other times, a lot of times, and I think what happens with Black women, with the Black community as a whole, is that, you know, we mask a lot of the frustration, we mask a lot of the pain, we mask a lot of the things that are going on. And that's a very real situation that happened for me while I was in college, to the point where I kind of had to step away from college for a short period of time to get myself together to be able to come back. One of the things that I learned largely while I was in my role is that an empty cup cannot pour. So if you don't have anything in you, it is very hard for you to give to other people. And sometimes you lose yourself so much in trying to give to others that you haven't realized that there are some things that you came to conquer for yourself, like your grades, like that degree, which is the sole reason that you went there. You've given up so much that you forget about those things. For me, it took that community, it took people that love me to say, hey, you're not well right now. You are not well. And for me, it was Nina Scott, who is working. She was like over the pageant for us. And she was like, take a break for a second. Take a break and check on yourself. And being given the permission and that would be my advice, is that don't be afraid to ask for help. That is something that's very difficult, I think, for our community, is asking for help. And I'm thankful that I had relationship with people to where they could see that I needed help. But if I would have asked for that help sooner, I may not have been in, you know, like the situation that I was in at the time. And I think help and I think honest communication is really important, because there is also another component where, because people don't know everything that you're going through, or because people don't know everything that's on your plate, the people that have been close to you along the journey, they might start to feel some type of way along the way, because now so much of your time is being given to other people or given to other things. And having Another piece of advice I would give is have that honest communication, is that, hey, my load looks different, but my love for you does not look different at all. Because you want to make sure that you are managing your business as in the business you came to conquer, managing, your role, and make sure that you're serving, but also managing your relationships that you had that got you there. There's relationships that supported you to even be able to be in that position.
You really hit on the nail right there, though, that like remembering to check in with yourself. It can be really easy to get wrapped up in the leadership, to get wrapped up in the managing of your business, but also to getting wrapped up as well in trying to managing these other relationships. And you're trying to put on events, and you're trying to, go to the Crown Forum or whatever it is that you have to do weekly and constantly in these roles, but you yourself are feeling a bit empty. So making sure that you're checking in with yourself and loving on yourself too, even when it does get to the point of being empty, because that can get hard, where you're consistently trying to push yourself through and you're not giving yourself that love back. So thank you so much for that, Taylor. And our last question for the group session, I want to talk to Miss CARLINE Boston, who is the current Miss HBCU teen. And this pageant is so special because it is really an opportunity for high school young ladies to get an opportunity to have that first taste of, HBCU pageant experience, HBCU culture, and then you're going off to college after. So CARLINE, tell me a little bit about how being in this pageant and attending things like Sister Mentor Night or other workshops has really helped you in your first year, being a college student. Where have you seen some of those things come full circle for you?
My name is CARLINE Boston. I am currently Miss HBCU Teen 2022, and I am currently a freshman at Fisk University. This pageant has definitely impacted me as I went through my first semester, my second semester here at Fisk. I've definitely gained a lot of public speaking skills, and I've gained a lot of comfortability when it came to kind of promoting myself, especially because in the beginning, we had campaign week, and it was really intimidating for a lot of people because it was the first time being on campus and nobody really knew any other students. So having to put yourself out there to a group of complete strangers was scary. But luckily, because of my experience with Miss HBCU Teen, I was able to kind of jump into that heads first and know that I have a lot of support behind me. And then even workshops like this, being here tonight and hearing from all these amazing mentors, I learned so much, especially since I have so many more semesters of college to go, and I'm really considering running for more campus positions, and just kind of hearing so much great advice on checking in on yourself, taking care of yourself, advocating for yourself. All of that is advice that will take you ladies very, very far, I promise, especially during your first year. So yeah.
Yes, thank you so much, CARLINE. And emphasis on that first year. The whole thing, it's a journey, right? And it truly is a marathon, those 4 years. But that first year sets you up for, the rest of those 3 years to follow. I mean, that first GPA you get, you're either fighting against it or it's working in your favor later, those opportunities to join organizations. Did you overload that first semester and now you're in 10 orgs and you got to pull out? So that first year does kind of set the tone. And it's not that there is not more room for growth, because there's always more growth, but start off really strong, because you never know what could happen in those 3 years to follow. So thank you so much, CARLINE, for speaking to that. And that is going to conclude our group session. So thank y'all so much, mentors. That was a wonderful conversation. I'm so grateful for y'all. And we are now going to break out into our smaller groups.
Well, Missouri has 2 HBCUs, and then the Midwest has a lot of HBCUs as well. And I was just I want to go far. And I ended up Googling HBCUs with the best journalism program. And so it was Howard, it was Hampton, Clark Atlanta, and then something else. Clark Atlanta too close to St. Louis for me. And then Howard, I didn't like Howard. So I chose Hampton, and then I looked more into it, and I found out about the Scripps Howard program. I'm not sure if y'all know about Scripps Howard, but the National Spelling Bee that happens, a lot of news stations around the country, country. The country falls under Scripps Howard. So it was a really great program there. And I also wanted to see what Black people were like on the East Coast, like, and it was definitely a culture shock there, learning about, you know, Africans, Caribbeans, Black people that's in Florida is different from Black people that's in Louisiana, that's different from Black people that's in DC. So it's really cool to get a nice culture shock like that. And then on top of that, they gave me a really good scholarship. So it was really an easy choice from there to choose Hampton.
So like I was saying previously, I didn't want to go to Savannah State at first. I figured I was meant to be a Spelmanite, and I went to the A Day in Your Life, and I just fell in love with it. I really wanted to attend an HBCU because I'm from Atlanta, and I just wanted to, like, I watched Drumline, I watched Stump the Yard. I just was like, I gotta have that experience. And so when I stepped foot on Spelman's campus, I felt very seen. I felt very much Black girl magic. And my mother broke it down to me and was like, you're not going to Spelman. And I'm like, why would you do this to me? Like, I was so devastated. And like I said, she gave me 3 options. And when I really gave Savannah State a chance after, like, I had a very slight window. And I feel like a lot of people take being at their HBCU or just being in college in general for granted. And I feel like I kind of got a glimpse of, like, okay, so if I don't get this housing, my secondary option was community college. And that crushed me because I'm like, there's no way in hell I'm about to be at a community college. No shade to anybody that's been to community college. Has anybody been in community college? Okay. You, Ebony?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, for me in that moment, if I already had my heart set on community college, for me, that just did not work for me because I'm an only child. I wanted to, like Destiny, I wanted to be very far away from home. And so when I did get a chance to attend Savannah State, it made me appreciate it even more because there was just a slight chance that, like, I wasn't going to get in. Like, it was a very slight chance that, you know, I was taking everything for granted. And so once I kind of got past the fluff and the cloud of being at Spelman or being at Clark Atlanta, I realized that that was where I was supposed to be. The people on my campus were some of the best people I've ever met in my life. Those are people who I still stay in touch with today. I love the fact now that Savannah State is a very small HBCU, and so we're all very close knit. We're very much like a family. I didn't feel like another number. Like, it was to the point where I could text my professors. You know, I still stay in touch with my professors, even down to the janitor. Like, Mr. Russell is like everybody's dad on campus, and so, you know, he's somebody who I look forward to surprising and seeing when I come back for homecoming. And so I would say, all in all, like, I just had a very beautiful experience.
I used my guidance counselor, and I had a very candid conversation with my guidance counselor, because guidance counselors are responsible for, depending on where you are, thousands of students. Like, I made a presence in my guidance counselor's office as hey, these are the types of places that I want to go. Tell me what I need to do to get there and what the finances are going to look like for that. Because if not, people can just give you the regular run-of-the-mill response. You can apply to this, but I had very pointed conversations with my guidance counselor. I would go in and make meetings with my guidance counselor to say, hey, are you available this day I have a break during my lunch. Can we do lunch or something? I was very intentional, because also when scholarships came through, I was one of the first people on her mind, for the scholarships, because I had built that relationship. And I think that relationships are a really big part, not just of getting you to your school, but also getting you to stay in your school. Because a big part of financial aid is not just getting there. It's, okay, I ran out of the freshman year scholarships. Okay, now we got to have a conversation about what these sophomore year scholarships looking like. And I built that relationship with the guidance counselor at Spelman too. I used to sit in Miss Jackson's office, be like, listen, I can't go home. So what are we doing? And those were the types of relationships that I had. So Miss Jackson, if she had a scholarship, she's like, hey, I know you need X amount of money for this semester. Here's this scholarship that just came through, apply for it, and I'll see if I can put you through. So relationships, it was my big thing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My name is Tanaya Cheeks. I'm Miss Arkansas HBCU team. And my question is, how do you all, what's your advice on budgeting and dealing with your finances while you're already in college?
Refund check. Not saying send it, but yes, my suggestion would be, first of all, don't try and live off campus if you do not have a car. Do not do that. That'll eat up most of your funding. Trying to do Ubers and stuff like that. And staying on campus, you're just able to walk to class. So with that budgeting, I would say you need to budget out your food, but also remember that if you have a meal plan, use that meal plan.
The meal plan.
Swipe that card. You do not need to spend money on outside food. And even if you do it for quick snacks that you'll need in the room, because once you get on that campus freshman year, you're not going to want to stay in your room anyway. So you're just letting the food go to waste. And then I don't know if you're going to be paying outside bills, make sure you budget that in as well. So I would suggest creating a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet of seeing all the amount of money you'll have.
And I was like, I just felt like God just wanted me at Spelman. And I mean, of course, it was an amazing institution. But I think the hardest thing for me was the fact that I had so much freedom. And I think that, you can wake up whenever you want to wake up, you can set your schedule. I mean, it's almost like freedom to a default, or to a fault. It's like you really have to go in with the mindset of oh, I'm going to, I have a goal, right? So being really goal driven will help you stay on track. I was a bio major my freshman year. I had this bright idea I was going to be a dentist. Bio, if you've ever heard anybody complain about biology as a major, it can be done. Many of my Spelman sisters have done it, went to med school, dental school, whatever, PhDs, all that, they're there. But me, it wasn't for me. So I switched to political science and I fell in love with politics and stuff like that. But I think I bombed my freshman year. It was to the point where I think my freshman year semester, my first semester, I was at a 2.0. And my parents were like, you keep playing, you better be at the crib. And I was like, oh my gosh, no, I don't want that. But that challenged me and it pushed me in a way that I didn't have to work that hard had I had it together with the correct mindset initially. So when they were speaking earlier to make sure you just don't lose focus of why you're in school, understand. And it wasn't because I was partying a lot or anything. It was just because I was wow, I can get to that later. That deadline's next week. I can do it Thursday midnight, or 11:59 and be working. But no, you really have to go in college with time management skills. I also came from a terrible public school system. So expectations were, but when I got to Spelman, I'm I gotta live up to that. I can't do it. So it is really perspective shifting. You really need to take a moment with yourself before you leave and just kind of what is my goal? How do I see myself? Vision board, whatever. Right, Kaylin.
Oh no, that was really, really good. I think I would say my experience was fairly similar, but the difference was I was partying so much, I was selling tickets. That's the biggest difference, is that I could not stay in my dorm. I had way too much freedom. I think Kennedy and I talked about it a lot, how my freshman year, I was just outside. Because I was inside 9th through 12th grade year. And so, I just took advantage of that a lot. And my grades did tank. They tanked and I struggled so hard to get them up. But one thing that I will say, for whatever your goals are in school, whether it's to apply for an internship, whether it's to, eventually apply to grad school after, you have to, I'll say it quickly. Your freshman year is a foundation for your GPA.
It is.
If you screw up your freshman year, it's gonna be real hard to bring it up after that. So bust your behind your freshman year, do it then. Please do that. But then you're a sophomore and junior year and senior year, you know you're on track for graduation. You don't have to be late. You know, you could graduate early even if you wanted to, maybe. But you know that that's set up because you worked hard in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And so that's probably my biggest advice, because I did not do that.
Yeah. And I would also say build connections. I'm talking about professors' besties. I was pulling out straight A's and not even, well, let me not tell y'all that. But I was pulling out straight A's just because I had great relationships with my professors, like in very difficult classes. So relationship building key.
Absolutely.
Because I'm good at speaking and like, you know, interviews and stuff. It's just like if I get on stage and like someone just asks me a question, I just have to automatically think. It makes me nervous.
You know,
hopefully your questions aren't as hard as ours. You going ahead. No. I just thought I'd say that.
I was going to say, like, Kaylin would be, so I felt like when we would be in pageant practice, and I feel like it was such a traumatic, but also the best experience ever. So I remember every little detail of this process. But I feel like Kaylin, and there was one other girl that was like super strong at like Q&A. Like it was always some cupcake response, like boom, like I can give it to you. But you know, I think I remember my question was like about leadership, but a lot of it will challenge what is your character, and some of your questions will even be like what's politically going on, you know, or mental health. I know was in the bucket, but you know, I don't know how you've been practicing, but I would like just any question. I would even have like random people that you know just to write a question down that you would want them, or they would want you to answer. Yeah. And just practice it, like put it in a bucket, practice it. But Kaylin, I feel like would have a lot of good insight too, because she was chef's kiss.
Thanks. I feel like I had the hardest question that night too. Yeah. Well, like I was saying, like I hope the questions for y'all are not as hard as ours were. Jasmine and the admin team might actually share the questions with you all beforehand, so you can kind of like practice and get prepared. Or even if they're not the actual questions, like questions that are inspired by the real ones or whatever. But I would definitely say the best way to prep is definitely, like Kennedy said, getting your friends, like, you know, to ask the questions to you, so that way, you know what I mean, like they're asking you the questions on the fly, because when you read them, it's just different because you're not going to read them on stage. And so you know, really preparing yourself and being, I know like for Miss America, and I even think Miss Universe, they, like Kennedy said, they ask questions based off of current events. I went to the Miss Georgia preliminaries this year, 2022, you know what I mean? And they asked questions about Trump and stuff like that. The most unconventional stuff, like things that they really want your opinion on, like how do you really feel? Like be prepared for those too.
All right, I think we all are back. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you all really enjoyed your time in the more intimate sessions in the breakout rooms. Being a queen truly goes far beyond just crowns and sashes. It's already in you. Before you even decided to run for a pageant position, before you became Miss whichever state you represent, you were a queen in your birthright. And so in that, I would like to close out with each of the mentors. We're just gonna go through and say a queen is, and enter one adjective that comes to you, that you hold close to you, and that you can affirm for each other, all the mentors, as well as the contestant. A queen is multifaceted.
A queen is tenacious.
A queen is a boss.
A queen is authentic.
The queen is genuine.
A queen is a servant. A queen is humble.
A queen is confident.
A queen is resilient.
A queen is you. You are a queen. Make sure that you hold your head up high. Do not let your crown slip and fall. And please go into the chat box, get these emails, get these Instagrams, these phone numbers if they're given. because when somebody has decided to pour into you, make sure that you're able and willing to receive. So use these connections, reach out to them. These are amazing women, and I am so grateful that they all were able to join tonight. I hope you all got so much out of this experience, and we will talk again soon. All the love, all the love, all the love. Good night, ladies.